Have you ever stood in a crowd and suddenly felt like you belonged nowhere, not even to yourself? Have you wondered why some women, without dazzling attire or eloquent words, carry themselves with a quiet gravity that commands attention? Such a woman doesn't possess what people typically think is necessary for confidence. No status, no striking appearance, no need for validation. Yet she has something that draws every gaze, an inner strength born from daring to face herself. Carl Jung, the great psychoanalyst, said that true maturity comes only when we confront the shadow, the rejected dark parts of our soul. This woman has ventured into that very place, embarking on a journey most people fear, the journey back to herself. But how do you know someone has truly walked through their shadow and lives from the center of their being? In this video, we won't search for tips to be more confident. Instead, we'll identify the subtle signs that a woman has begun the process of becoming herself. And perhaps that journey has been quietly unfolding within you for a long time. As always, I have a small challenge for you. Watch this video to the end if you're serious about your growth journey. Leave a comment saying, "I accept the challenge," or simply, "Challenge accepted," to join us as we dive into the first part of today's video. Number 1. She dares to face her shadow. Most people live as if wandering endlessly on a frozen lake. The surface is smooth and gleaming, reflecting the images they want the world to see: stability, politeness, a cheerful smile. But beneath that ice lies a deep, dark ocean where the shadow resides. Carl Jung called the shadow the collection of all the rejected parts of the psyche: envy, unacknowledged anger, the longing for love we've deemed weak, and the wounds we learn to bury too early. These are the parts we don't want to see, cannot accept, or were forced to discard to survive psychologically. A confident woman has dared to break that ice and dive in, not out of curiosity, but because at some point she could no longer float on the surface with a polite smile while her soul froze in isolation. It's not a moment of radiant enlightenment. It's the moment she free falls into the deepest layers of herself, where masks and roles dissolve. All the images she tried to embody, good daughter, likable friend, diligent colleague, shatter at once, like ice cracking under unbearable pressure. Facing the shadow isn't about confronting an external monster. It's daring to admit, "I have dark parts I've despised in others." She once scorned others' weakness until she realized she feared being seen as weak. She judged others for craving attention until she understood she'd always lived for validation, just silently. Picture your mind as an ancient map, with a region marked in faint gray, edged with a scrawled note: "Do not enter." That's the land you've never dared to tread, the place where instincts are caged, memories are locked away, and forbidden emotions lie dormant like starved beasts. For most of your life, you've learned to skirt that forest. You've built tidy paths for yourself with socially accepted roles. But one day, a roar from the forest can no longer be ignored. Instead of turning away as usual, you step inside. That's the journey she has taken. At first, everything in that journey is shrouded in fog. Familiar paths vanish, the trees grow tangled, as if hiding something. Then suddenly, she begins to see that the patterns repeating in her life, her fate or personality, are not random, but the silent stirrings of an unacknowledged shadow. Jung never called for destroying the shadow. He warned, "Everyone carries a shadow, And the less it is embodied in the individual's conscious life, the blacker and denser it is. Trying to eradicate it is the most dangerous thing, for what we reject continues to manipulate us from the dark. The only way is to recognize it, dialogue with it, and reclaim the energy we've used to suppress it. She did that, and in doing so, she reclaimed herself. In modern society, people confuse positivity with healing. Many try to think positively, grow personally, or meditate daily. But deep down, they're using artificial light to mask real darkness. She didn't do that. She didn't paint over her wounds with lipstick. She let them bleed, be seen, and be named. In that moment, pain became a message. The shadow became a guide. Once, during meditation, she saw an image of an underground warehouse filled with veiled statues. She pulled back a cloth, revealing an angry, distorted face, her own. At first, she wanted to turn away. But then she understood. This was the forgotten part, not gone, but waiting to be seen. When she touched that face, it began to warm. And from that moment, integration began. True confidence cannot exist if we don't know who we are, and we cannot know who we are by looking only at the pleasant parts. She is confident not because she's healed, but because she knows exactly what's inside her, even the darkest corners. When you no longer fear your darkness, it no longer controls you. That's a rare kind of freedom, and from that freedom, confidence takes root. Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." That's what she broke. She refused to live like a puppet pulled by unseen wounds. With each moment she sat with her anger, shame, or fear of abandonment, she reclaimed her life, bit by bit. And here's the strange thing. The more she accepted the parts she once thought bad, the gentler, stronger, and deeper she became. No more straining to be strong. No more wearing a cheerful mask. Just a human being brave enough to face the truth. And because of that, she carries a quiet light that others feel, even when she says nothing. Number 2, she no longer lives by roles. When you've walked through the silent wilderness of your soul, when you've dared to face the shadow you've spent a lifetime avoiding, there comes a point where you can no longer live as you did before. That's what happened to her. After sifting through the fragments of memory, after looking at her darkest parts and naming them with unflinching honesty, she realized the life she was living wasn't hers. Not because anyone forced her, but because she had unconsciously donned a mask, a persona, as we all do. Carl Jung defined the persona as a complicated system of relations between individual consciousness and society, a kind of mask designed on the one hand to make a definite impression upon others, and on the other to conceal the true nature of the individual. The problem is, when that mask becomes our only identity, we lose touch with our true selves. Jung warned that the stronger the persona, the larger the shadow behind it. Forbidden emotions, anger, the need for love or chaotic creativity don't vanish. They're pushed into the dark, and one day they rise through a crisis, an outburst, or a growing sense of, "I don't know who I am." She was once the girl everyone found likable, always listening, always accommodating. But behind that smile was bone-deep exhaustion, the feeling that no one truly sees me. She thought it was responsibility until she realized every time she tried to make others comfortable, she drifted further from herself. Have you ever felt like you're playing a role? The good child, the perfect partner, the rational adult. Have you ever heard yourself speak and suddenly thought, that's not your real voice? If you've felt that, felt cramped in your role, share that feeling below. It might spark a conversation someone is quietly waiting for. Awakening doesn't come like a thunderbolt. It comes like erosion, as every role begins to crumble, bit by bit, beyond saving. She stopped replying to messages from unimportant people, stopped forcing a smile when tired, stopped meeting people just because she should. Awakening starts with rejecting the smallest things that seem trivial, but are the claws keeping us caged in the persona. Some say living authentically is selfish. Jung would disagree. Living inauthentically is the greatest betrayal, not just to yourself, but to the world. When you wear a mask, you deny others the chance to love the real you. They love the role you play, and that's why you feel lonely, even surrounded by people. She began practicing the hardest thing, speaking her truth, even if her voice trembled, even if others disapproved. She realized that silence to avoid conflict was the fastest way to kill the connection. So she started saying, no, I'm not sure, or I felt hurt when... And something miraculous happened. Those who truly loved her didn't leave. Instead, they saw her for the first time. This is the pivotal step in what Jung called individuation, letting go of the persona to move toward the self, the truest, most whole you. But this path isn't for those who fear being disliked or need constant approval. She knew that, and she chose to keep going because inner freedom mattered more than external acceptance. Imagine living in an abandoned city where the walls around you are covered in vibrant graffiti. People come, painting symbols, slogans, faces, and messages they think you should carry. You no longer see the original wall, only layers of paint. One day, in a great rain, the paint begins to wash away. You see the rough, cracked, unpolished surface, the real wall. Not glossy, not perfect. But something in you breathes a sigh of relief. You scrape off the rest. Not to destroy, but to stay with yourself. That's what she did. Once in a meeting, colleagues laughed as if nothing mattered. Before, she'd have nodded, joined in, acted at ease. But that day, something felt wrong. She wanted to say, I think this is heading in the wrong direction. And she did. The mood shifted. Some eyes glared, but others looked at her for the first time with respect. Living authentically isn't about being right, but being real. And the real isn't always easy to hear. She understood that the self isn't a perfect, idealized ego. It's the integration of light and dark, compassion and rebellion, gentleness and righteous anger. She stopped trying to be better. She became herself, with all her contradictions, complexity, and truth. Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." She claimed that privilege by letting every role dissolve, quietly stepping away from applause, and living a life seen from within. And you know what? That raw authenticity, no pretense, no performance, no falseness, is what gives her a profound confidence that no one can teach or mimic. It's not confidence built on skills. It's a quiet, compelling energy, wordless, the energy of someone who no longer needs to prove anything. Number 3, she connects with the collective unconscious. The moment she shed the persona mask and ceased living by imposed roles, a space opened within her. It wasn't the emptiness of disorientation, but the silence of a room freshly cleared, where something true, profound, and ancient could enter. Then she began to hear a voice from a deeper layer, beyond the reach of everyday language. That was when she started connecting with the collective unconscious, the shared language of the human soul, transcending individuality, nationality, and time. Carl Jung described the collective unconscious as a deeper psychic layer beneath the personal unconscious, a realm containing archetypal symbols, images, and memories shared by all humanity, even those who have never met. It's the home of figures like the mother, the wanderer, the wise sage, the eternal child, the villain, the savior. She didn't learn these archetypes from books or need anyone to teach her. They emerged in her dreams, in moments of inner upheaval, at life's great crossroads, as if an ancient part of her was speaking. Unlike the personal unconscious, which holds repressed memories, unprocessed emotions, or childhood experiences, the collective unconscious, as Jung proposed, is a deeper layer of the mind containing universal symbols, patterns, and archetypes shared by all humanity. These aren't learned from life experiences, but inherited biologically from our ancestors, encoded in the psyche's structure. Neuroscientists and evolutionary psychologists have also touched on this phenomenon under different names. For instance, in the default mode network theory, a system highly active when the brain is at rest, researchers have observed that during daydreaming, meditation, or transpersonal experiences, people encounter images and symbols not rooted in personal memory, but in a deeper, universally symbolic layer. This may be how the brain constructs symbolic meaning in an open mental space where consciousness steps back, allowing deeper layers of information to surface. Whether you believe in the collective unconscious or not, it's clear. Some experiences within us don't stem from memory, but from a deeper source language cannot name, a source we all share, even without exposure to religion or ancient tales. Jung said, "The collective unconscious consists of the whole spiritual heritage of mankind's evolution, born anew in the brain structure of every individual." The collective unconscious isn't a vague, mystical concept. It's the operating system of the soul we've forgotten we carry. When you connect with it, you no longer need to figure out your path. You listen, and the path reveals itself through symbols, intuition, and inner guidance. She began noticing symbols in her life as signs, recurring stories, haunting images, choices her rational mind couldn't explain, but resonated like a call from within. Once, during a crisis of not knowing what to do with her life, she stumbled upon a painting, a snake shedding its skin. Not on social media, but in an old, unfamiliar cafe. The image stopped her in her tracks, as if someone had called her name in a wordless language. From then on, her journey shifted from striving to become someone to returning to who she always was. When someone connects with the collective unconscious, they no longer feel alone. In every decision, crisis, or inexplicable emotion, a shared human soul lives alongside them. You're not just living your life, you're living a myth, a sacred journey that has existed for millennia. That's why Jung called this process mythopoetic, the rewriting of a personal myth based on collective archetypes. For her, this connection didn't come from reading philosophy or attending popular healing classes. It came from being deeply present with her own life, listening to her dreams each morning, noting vague intuitions, observing emotions without rushing to label them, and letting symbols emerge naturally as they are. Connecting with the collective unconscious doesn't lead to vagueness. On the contrary, when you see yourself as part of a vast, ancient flow, you stop panicking. You realize today's chaotic emotions aren't instability, but necessary waves carrying you to a new layer of awareness. You begin to trust, with a deep inner knowing, that every phase has meaning. Every pain is a symbol yet to be understood. Her confidence grew from that place. It no longer stemmed from degrees, achievements, or others' feedback, but from a profound, felt knowing that she was living as her soul required. And no one but her could judge what was right, wrong, enough, or lacking. Only she, with her true self, and the flow of the unconscious, whispering through dreams, intuitions, and strange coincidences in daily life. Number 4, she reclaims her feminine energy, and then, from within that mythic darkness, she touched the most sacred part, the anima, the feminine soul within. In Carl Jung's teachings, the anima is the archetype representing the feminine aspect of the psyche, particularly in the unconscious of men, but also present as a vibrant energy field in every individual, regardless of gender, a symbol of intuition, emotion, creativity, receptivity, and inner depth. For this woman, connecting with the anima wasn't something she tried to achieve. It happened when she stopped controlling, stopped directing, and began to listen. Listening to the ambiguity, listening to the wordless tears, listening to the feeling of, I don't know why, but my heart is speaking. That was the archetypal feminine energy returning, after being suppressed for so long by rational structures, roles, expectations, and societal control. The anima doesn't arrive as a clear voice. It comes through images, through dreams of oceans, moons, deep forests, and enigmatic women. The anima is the echo of an inner temple, where intuition is revered as a form of wisdom. Jung wrote, "Anima is the archetype of life itself." And indeed, when she reconnected with her anima, she became more alive. Not in an exuberant way, but in a profound way, like parched earth after rain. Emotions once dismissed, wordless sadness, feelings of loss, unaccepted longings, now had space to live, to breathe, to be expressed as poetry, as art, as acts of kindness, as a deeply empathetic presence for others. And when the anima awakened, she realized something almost buried within her. Her inner feminine energy had been broken, stifled, and misunderstood for too long. In a world where rationality is worshipped like a religion, she had learned to ignore her intuition, suppress her emotions, and force herself to be fine, logical, not too sensitive. But as the inner voice grew clearer, as archetypal symbols began to rise, she could no longer turn away from the most sacred part of herself, the primal, ancient, and whole feminine energy. Carl Jung didn't define feminine energy by societal stereotypes of softness, weakness, or submission. He understood it as a vibrant archetype, a receptive, nurturing, cyclical, chaotic, emotional force connected to the divine. It's the fertile ground of the unconscious, where the new is born, where the soul is reborn, where intuition surpasses reason, and life exists without needing a reason. For her, reclaiming this feminine energy wasn't a choice. It was a return, slow but irreversible. And it began with things that seemed trivial, feeling choked up by a song, heartbroken watching a lost child, or sensing her body's exhaustion not from illness, but from living too long without inner care. These were the first signals, quiet but persistent, that her feminine energy demanded to be heard. Have you ever felt torn between wanting to be cared for, yet not wanting to seem weak? Between wanting to slow down but feeling guilty for not being productive? She felt that too. She once believed emotions were obstacles, daydreams were useless, and gentleness made her vulnerable, until she reached exhaustion, not from overwork, but from living too long without allowing herself to be herself. One day, amid a flurry of deadlines, her hands trembled uncontrollably, not from stress, but because she suddenly realized she no longer felt alive in her own body. She was like a machine programmed to perform, to fit in, to not be difficult. But deep within, a soul was gasping for air, starved of feeling. In that moment, she knew she couldn't live the old way anymore. She couldn't keep pretending to be strong. She couldn't keep forcing herself to be accepted at the cost of her connection to her soul. If this story touches something within you, if something in your heart stirs or sighs with relief, leave a like, a subscription, or a heartfelt comment. Not to agree, but to affirm to yourself, I too am returning to myself. Feminine energy isn't the cute thing many assume. It's the capacity to receive life as it is, with its pain, uncertainty, and elusive beauty that reason cannot touch. It's birth, not just in the physical sense, but the ability to birth one's true self from within. She began to see that the chaos inside her, the complex emotions, the inexplicable ebbs and flows, the invisible exhaustion, wasn't a problem, but the soil where sacred life could sprout. And she stopped hating herself for it. Instead, she felt gratitude because through that chaos, she found the path back to her true self. Another day, while drawing for pleasure, she let her hands move with her emotions. She didn't know what she had created, but she felt lighter, and she realized it was a map of her inner world, chaotic yet beautiful, painful yet whole. That was her feminine energy taking form, needing no approval, no explanation. She also began to change how she showed up for others, no longer fixing problems for friends, partners, or colleagues. Instead, she listened, and connections deepened because she came not from a controlling mind, but from an empathetic heart. That was feminine energy in action, quiet, unforced, yet powerful enough to make others feel safe with just a glance. And strangely, as she became softer, she also became stronger. She no longer needed a facade of strength. Her power came from inner stability, something no reputation or status could build. It came from a kind of courage, the courage to be soft, to listen, to not know, to receive. Her true confidence, the kind that let her walk steadily through life, began the moment she dared to reclaim her neglected feminine energy. Not to become a proper woman, but to become a whole human being. And in that moment, she no longer needed to strive to be someone. She had become herself. Number 5, she embarks on the journey of individuation. That's when she stepped into the journey of individuation, as Carl Jung called it. This isn't a quest for success or self-improvement in the conventional sense. It's a return to the authentic self, where the deepest essence is lived, expressed, and harmonized regardless of external standards. And the first thing she realized was, this path must be walked alone. Individuation isn't a linear journey. It has no fixed map, no clear destination. It's a spiral path where you continually confront contradictions and tensions within yourself. Reason versus emotion, freedom versus constraint, light versus darkness. The most terrifying part isn't failure, but the profound disorientation within your psyche. Jung called it the night sea journey, a voyage across a dark sea where no shore is visible, no direction is clear, and turning back is impossible. She had nights like that, nights when she couldn't cry, couldn't think, only felt drained of all familiar reference points, everything she once believed in, her principles, values, self-image, unraveled piece by piece, like a labyrinth of red thread, each knot undone, until nothing remained but a tangled spool on a cold stone floor. Yet in that desolation, something new began to speak, not loudly, not clearly, but truly. If some part of you stirs, however faintly, as you hear this, leave a sign as a silent promise to yourself that you'll listen to it, starting today. Jung wrote, "Individuation means becoming an individual, and, insofar as individuality embraces our innermost last and incomparable uniqueness, it also implies becoming one's own self. Individuation is the process of becoming yourself, a singular, indivisible being where the unique, original, and unreplicable essence of your soul is unveiled." But to achieve this, she had to make a trade-off. The greatest cost was the approval of the old world. As she began living authentically, she drifted from those once close to her, not due to conflict, but because their energies no longer aligned. People who once called her inspiring now found her unfathomable. Those who praised her as sweet began to see her as cold. But she didn't resist. She quietly moved forward, knowing that wholeness cannot coexist with living to please others. From that moment, she began living without needing permission. No need for anyone's approval to dream, to rest, to fail, to change. No need for validation to choose an unconventional path, to step back when needed, or to start and abandon when her intuition spoke. This freedom didn't come from not caring about anyone, but from listening to herself so deeply that external noise no longer held sway. Individuation isn't about finding a better version of yourself, but reconciling with all that you already are, including the parts once deemed unworthy. She began dialoguing with her suppressed aspects, envy, the urge to control, wounds from her mother, and resentment for being unrecognized. And when she stopped trying to forcibly transform them, something strange happened. They no longer fought her. They became raw material for understanding herself, and through that, accepting herself. Her confidence, the deepest, quietest kind, didn't come from knowing exactly who she is, but from no longer fearing who she is. She could change. She could contradict herself. She could be unclear. Yet in all of that, she remained herself. Number 6, practical steps. As she embraced the journey of individuation, a path without a map, audience, or fixed destination, she learned not what to do, but how to live. And living authentically doesn't come from a dramatic awakening, but from small, quiet, deliberate choices, repeated daily. Because individuation, ultimately, isn't a theory. It's how you treat yourself when no one is watching. Below are small but transformative practices to nurture your inner confidence. Before starting, comment, "I'm ready," if you're prepared to embark on this journey with me. You can begin cultivating confidence with the simplest act, sitting with yourself each day, without purpose, without plans, without techniques. Just sit. Not to meditate, not to achieve a state, but to become someone who can be present with themselves without needing a reason. This is the first and foundational practice, learning not to abandon yourself when there's nothing to do. It's the initial step to breaking the habit of living outwardly, where your existence feels valid only when affirmed by others. As stillness opens the door, you'll hear inner sounds you once rushed to ignore. Pay attention to your dreams, the strange images from sleep, and write them down the moment you wake. Don't try to understand or analyze them. Jung called dreams the language of the soul. You don't need to interpret them with reason, just let them exist. By recording these fragments of the unconscious, you're restoring the channel between your conscious mind and the depths of your soul. Next, write your emotions without censorship. Each time you feel anger, jealousy, sadness, emptiness, or the urge to walk away, or when you can't understand yourself, don't suppress it. Write, not to reread, but to release trapped energy. This isn't just writing. It's reclaiming your inner sovereignty, where you alone have the right to name your experiences. Each day, pause and ask, am I doing something today just to maintain a role? Maybe you smile when you don't want to, nod when you disagree. Say, I'm fine when you're cut inside. Don't blame yourself. But notice, because from that awareness, you can begin unraveling the layers of persona that have confined your life for too long. Practice something different. Rest when your soul needs it, not when your schedule allows. If you feel uncertain, retreat. If you feel an urge, act. If you feel empty, stay still. Don't let reason force you against your inner rhythm. Start trusting the wisdom of your internal cycles, where the archetypal feminine energy whispers guidance. And don't forget to create something, just because you want to. Draw, write, sing, plant, bake, play music, not for anyone, not to be beautiful or good, but because you're alive. When you do this, you activate primal creativity, connecting with the anima, the deep feminine soul within that needs no validation to be itself. In relationships, practice honesty without drama. If you're tired, say you need space. If you're unsure, admit it. If a connection feels like pretense, step back to see clearly. Honesty isn't about winning, but about refusing to harm yourself in silence. And most importantly, don't wait for perfection to start living authentically. Each day you dare to be a little more honest, linger with your emotions a minute longer, or voice something you've never said. You take a steady step on the path of individuation. You're becoming who you've always been, before the world told you who you should be. If you're on this journey, leave a single dot. It's not just a comment, it's a quiet ritual, a promise to keep going. No one can give you confidence. True confidence isn't taught, doesn't come from learning a skill or wearing a positive mask. It only grows when you dare to step into yourself, not to find answers, but to sit with the truth, even when it's raw, chaotic, and uncomfortable. You don't need to become the perfect woman. You only need the courage not to abandon yourself in your most fragile moments. When you dare to listen to that faint inner voice, you begin reclaiming the map of your soul, lost long ago. This isn't a short journey. Some days, you'll feel you're back at the starting line. Some nights, you won't know where you're going. But each time you refuse to return to the old ways, the old roles, assumptions, and molds, you take an irreversible step toward your true self. And if you're still on this journey, quietly, privately, silently, congratulations, you've begun. And you're not alone. With you are we and many others watching this video. The most painful betrayal does not come from enemies, but from those you once placed your full trust in. A close friend suddenly turns their back on you, a lover leaves without a word of explanation, or a colleague quietly stabs you in the back when you are least prepared. You may have asked yourself, why them? But deeper than that is the confusion and disappointment when you realize you never saw the warning signs beforehand. But what if I told you those signs were always there, and you were never insightful enough to recognize them? Carl Jung, the master of psychology, believed that betrayal is not a random act, but always follows a complex psychological script, directly linked to the shadow self within each person. In this video, we will explore the real reasons behind betrayal, uncovering the unconscious secrets that manipulate the relationships around you. When you understand this, you will be able to identify the signs early on, so you will never have to endure the bitterness of betrayal again. Number 1. Repressed darkness and hidden resentment, the shadow self. Have you ever wondered why someone who once loved, respected, and stood by you suddenly turns their back? A friend who toasted to your success yesterday now remains silent when you achieve something great. A loved one who once held you when you were down now quietly hopes to see you stumble again. Some betrayals come without warning, without sound, leaving only shock and a big question mark. Why? Carl Jung, the Swiss psychoanalyst who delved into the darkest corners of the human soul, offers a thought-provoking answer. Betrayal originates from the shadow self. In Jung's system of thought, the shadow is the part of the psyche that we deliberately deny, suppress, or simply fail to recognize. It contains everything we do not wish to be: jealousy, anger, insecurity, desire, selfishness, and the need for control. Not because it does not exist, but because it does not fit the image of who I should be that we create for ourselves. As Jung wrote in Psychological Aspects of the Persona, the shadow is a moral problem that challenges the whole ego personality, for no one can become conscious of the shadow without considerable moral effort. The issue lies in the fact that when a person lacks the courage to confront their shadow, it does not disappear. It waits for a person, a situation, or an excuse to emerge and take control of behavior. When you shine, when you advance, when you live true to yourself, that light inadvertently illuminates the darkness in others. They do not hate you. They hate the part of themselves that you unintentionally awaken, a part they have long buried. You become like a mirror, but instead of reflecting beauty, you accidentally reflect the shame they dare not face. Imagine a familiar example. You and a close friend start a business together. Initially, you both share dreams, pressures, and sleepless, hopeful nights. But then, your work exceeds expectations. You are praised by the media, trusted by clients, while your friend falls a step behind. You think nothing of it, still seeing them as part of the journey. But then you notice they start missing meetings, stop sharing sincerely, and sometimes make sarcastic remarks like, "Famous now, huh? Forgotten everyone else." At first, you think they are just joking. But over time, you realize they are quietly damaging your reputation behind your back. What happened? Carl Jung explains that in such situations, the shadow is triggered. Your success touches their fear of failure, feelings of inadequacy, and suppressed envy. Since they cannot admit, "I am jealous," Their unconscious takes a more bearable route, blaming you. This is a form of projection, projecting their own shadow onto someone else to avoid seeing it in themselves. As Jung wrote in Ion, researches into the phenomenology of the self, projection turns the personal unconscious into a part of the perceived object. Instead of being a subjective content, it appears to us as an attribute of the object. Here, you becomes the object onto which the shadow is cast. They see in you the arrogance they dare not display. They attribute selfish motives to you, even though they feel envious. To justify this feeling, their mind creates a story. You have changed. You look down on me. You are not the same person anymore. This is where distance forms, trust breaks, and betrayal seep in. The painful truth here is that the betrayer often does not realize they are doing something wrong. In their eyes, they are merely reacting to something wrong about you. Jung emphasized that the shadow has such power that if not recognized and integrated, it will take control of behavior without the person even knowing. The victim is not just you, but also them, as they are manipulated by their internal darkness. Another classic example is in romantic relationships. Many people have experienced being left by a partner right after they start living authentically, pursuing a passionate career, speaking their mind, and loving themselves more. When you grow, some people cannot keep up, and that change activates their shadow. They may feel left behind, no longer needed, and instead of confronting the fear of loss, they conclude, "You have changed. You are not the same." Betrayal then comes as a way to regain emotional control. Jung emphasizes that healing does not lie in blaming others, but in recognizing the shadow within ourselves. Otherwise, we too can betray others similarly when our ego feels threatened. When we see someone achieving something we crave, the solution is not to eliminate the shadow, but to see it, integrate it, and take responsibility for it. Jung calls this process individuation, the journey of merging the conscious and unconscious to live a whole and authentic life. As he wrote in The Philosophical Tree, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. This means that enlightenment does not come from dreaming of goodness, but from facing the darkness within. So, what should we do when betrayed by those close to us? First, look deeper to understand that the behavior may not stem from malice, but from an activated shadow, a part of them that has never healed. This does not excuse the hurt they cause, but it helps you avoid drowning in bitterness. Second, learn to recognize the early signs: unusual coldness, hollow compliments, and an invisible distance gradually widening. And finally, instead of dimming your light out of fear that others cannot bear it, continue to shine, because you cannot heal someone else's darkness by dimming your own. Betrayal is a bitter lesson, but under Jung's light, it is also an opportunity to peer into the structure of the human soul. It reminds us that everyone carries within them an unseen shadow, and if we remain aware enough to recognize it, not only in others but also within ourselves, then betrayal is no longer just a wound, but an awakening. Number 2. The mask of deception and calculated betrayal. The persona and manipulative betrayal. But not all betrayals come from repressed emotions or the impulsive bursts of unrecognized shadows. Some betrayals are colder, sharper, not born from inner wounds, but from calculation. These are betrayals that wear the mask of kindness, hidden under the perfect guise of a friend, a companion, a lover. Those who enter your life with a friendly face, but with entirely different intentions. Carl Jung calls this the persona, the social mask people wear to be accepted, liked, or to get what they want. If the shadow is the part of us we deny, then the persona is the part we create to survive in a world full of expectations. In 2 essays on analytical psychology, Jung wrote, "The persona is that which in reality one is not, but which oneself as well as others think one is." In other words, the persona is not your true self, it is what you and others believe you are. The problem arises when people completely identify with that mask and begin to use it as a tool for manipulation. Have you ever known someone who is always there when you need them, listens to all your problems, eagerly helps, publicly supports you with enthusiasm and sincerity, but then one day, when you no longer serve their purpose, they disappear without a trace, or worse, they turn their back, reveal your secrets, undermine you, and use the very information you once trusted them with to hurt you? That is not betrayal born of emotion. That is betrayal executed with cold, calculated strategy. Jung emphasized that those who live entirely by their persona often lose connection with their true selves. They drift through social roles: the obedient child, the good friend, the ideal lover, the model employee. But it's all just an act. And as he warned in The Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious, the persona is a complicated system of relations between individual consciousness and society, fitted for the outer world, but perilous to the integrity of the individual. The problem is this: if a person loses the boundary between the mask and their true nature, they can become anyone to achieve anything, and when that purpose is no longer beneficial, they are ready to remove the mask and retreat, leaving you amidst the ruins of broken trust. Carl Jung once cautioned, "The greater the contrast, the greater the potential. Great energy springs from a corresponding great tension of opposites." The more perfect the persona, the more someone seeks to control others' perceptions of them, the stronger the shadow behind it. This inner conflict forces them to expend all their energy maintaining the image, creating a source of power not for growth, but for manipulation. Such people are often great communicators, empathetic and connected, but they never truly reveal their real selves. They do not love you. They love what they can gain from being in a relationship with you. Another form of calculated betrayal appears in romantic relationships. Some people enter your life with all the sweetness. They listen, they indulge you, they make you feel special. And then, after a few months when you are attached, they start to change. You discover they have another relationship, or they only come to you when they need money, comfort, or a temporary distraction. When you demand a real connection, they withdraw. That is when you realize they did not love you. They loved the role you played in their life. The common trait of these types of betrayal is that they are always meticulously disguised. The manipulator knows that to earn your trust, they need to act convincingly, and the betrayal only happens when they realize your trust no longer holds value for them. What makes it painful is not just the act itself, but the feeling of being used. The feeling that you once shared your heart with someone who never really existed. The feeling of being deceived not by force, but by conditional kindness. Jung once said, "Shame is a soul-eating emotion, and what makes victims of this kind of betrayal suffer more is the shame of not realizing it sooner." But you need to understand, the best manipulators do not attack you, they make you open the door. That is why this type of betrayal is not an end, but a powerful reminder. Observe not just people's actions when they are happy, but also their reactions when you say no. The solution, according to Jung, does not lie in doubting everyone, but in developing inner integrity. When you live true to your authentic self, you gradually attract genuine relationships. You begin to recognize those who only interact with you out of need, and those who stay even when you have nothing to offer. Awareness does not mean becoming hardened. It means being clear enough to see through others' personas and strong enough not to lose yourself. And above all, even though this type of betrayal is painful, it is an opportunity for you to remove the very mask you may have unconsciously worn. The mask of always wanting to please, always wanting to keep the peace, always giving unconditionally. Sometimes you are not used because you are weak, but because you are too willing to overlook the small signs. Let the betrayal teach you a lesson about boundaries, not about bitterness. Because as Jung wrote in Modern Man in Search of a Soul, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Betrayal, in the end, can only reach you if you do not fully know who you are. Number 3. Deep-rooted jealousy. Jealousy-fueled betrayal. Betrayals that wear the mask of kindness can hurt because of the feeling of being used. But there is another type of betrayal, more subtle, more persistent, and sometimes it comes from those we love the most, those closest to us. It is the kind of betrayal that is quietly nurtured by jealousy. Unlike deliberate manipulation, jealousy-fueled betrayal is often the product of inner turmoil that has never been healed. And once again, to understand its true origins, we must look through the lens of Carl Gustav Jung. Jung did not see jealousy merely as a fleeting emotion or a moral flaw, but as an expression of inner division, where the ego recognizes a lack within itself, but is not mature enough to confront it. When seeing others possess what we deeply desire, a fulfilling relationship, a stable career, or simply inner peace, the ego feels wounded. But instead of acknowledging that pain to learn and grow, the jealous person chooses to deny, distort, and attack. They cannot genuinely celebrate your joy because your happiness exposes the emptiness within them. In The Undiscovered Self, Jung wrote, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. The discomfort others feel when they see you happy is a signal that they need to look inward. But not everyone is brave enough to do that. And as a defense mechanism, their mind creates distorted logic. She only got that success because she was lucky, not because she is capable. He is loved because he knows how to flatter, not because he is genuine." These statements may seem harmless, even spoken with a smile, but they are little needles pricking at your confidence. And little by little, they make you doubt yourself. In the workplace, jealousy-fueled betrayal is even more common but harder to detect. Imagine you and a colleague join a company at the same time. You are proactive, creative, and trusted by your boss, and soon you get promoted. At first, your colleague happily congratulates you, but then they start to change. They stop collaborating, become passive in projects, and quietly speak poorly of you to superiors. You lose influence, miss out on opportunities, and eventually discover that they were the cause, not because you did anything wrong, but because your presence made them feel like a failure. Jung once wrote, "Envy does not allow us to be grateful. It poisons our perspective. When others allow envy to lead them, they no longer see you as valuable, but as a threat to be removed." The painful truth is that many people who betray out of jealousy do not even realize they are jealous. Because if they admitted it, they would have to confront the shame of saying, "I want what you have." The ego cannot bear that, so it creates excuses. You are not genuine. You only got that through cheating. You have changed. And in this way, jealousy, which could have been a motivation to learn and grow, instead becomes a drive for destruction. There are also friendships and family relationships poisoned by jealousy that neither side speaks about. The coldness starts when you receive attention, and they do not. The frustration grows from moments when you are praised, and they are overlooked. And then betrayal appears, not in the form of a clear backstab, but as a silent withdrawal, a betrayal by silence or complete indifference when you need a shoulder to lean on. The solution, as Jung suggests, is not to cut off everyone jealous of you, but to understand the nature of this emotion and see the thirst behind the hurtful behavior. Jealous people do not truly want to hurt you. They want to heal themselves, but do not know how. In Psychology and Alchemy, he wrote, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." This means people do not grow by dreaming of light, but by facing the darkness within. And if they do not do this, that darkness will continue to drive them to acts of betrayal, and in the end, they are the ones who suffer the most. Therefore, if you are experiencing the feeling of being betrayed by someone close, and you sense that the reason is jealousy, do not just look at them as the villain. See it as a manifestation of a lost inner self. You do not need to forgive. You do not need to maintain the relationship, but you also do not need to carry bitterness. You were simply the light that shined on the emptiness within them, and light is never at fault. Jealousy-fueled betrayal is a painful lesson, but it is also a lesson for you that your growth is not always welcomed, that not everyone is generous enough to witness you shine. But as Jung once said, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. And true growth is to continue evolving, to continue loving, even knowing that light always comes with a price. Number 4, the power struggle. Power struggle. Jealousy-fueled betrayal is a reaction to the silent pain of someone else's light, but sometimes betrayal does not arise because the other person feels inferior. It emerges because they feel threatened. When you begin to step out of the mold they are familiar with, when you become independent, have your voice, and make your own decisions, an unspoken power struggle begins. This is the essence of the kind of controlling betrayal that Carl Jung once warned about. Not everyone seeks friendship, love, or cooperation with the intention of equality. Some people approach you not because they want to walk alongside you, but because they need someone to control. They feel strongest when you are dependent, weak, or less prominent than they are. But when you begin to grow, whether in thinking, emotion, or social status, the balance of power in the relationship shifts, and for many, that is unacceptable. Carl Jung wrote in The Structure and Dynamics of the Psyche, "Where love rules, there is no will to power, and where power predominates, there love is lacking. Love and the desire for control cannot coexist. If someone chooses power, they have already abandoned true love. And that is when betrayal creeps in." Carl Jung called this the unconscious struggle of egos, a conflict that doesn't unfold through words but is evident in behavior and attitude. When others no longer see themselves as the center of your life, they are forced to choose, either accept the change in position or destroy the power structure that is now trembling. In Psychological Types, Jung stated clearly, "The greater the tension, the greater is the potential. Great energy springs from a corresponding great tension of opposites. As you and they grow more different, the power gap widens, and if not handled correctly, it explodes into betrayal." What is terrifying about this kind of betrayal is that it is often very subtle. They do not leave you immediately. They do not attack you head-on. Instead, they use emotional manipulation, making you feel guilty for changing, triggering your insecurities by saying you are too ambitious, not genuine anymore, or that you have forgotten your roots. They create slow-drip dramas, withdrawing, going silent, and then suddenly accusing you as if you committed a crime. In psychology, this is known as emotional blackmail, and it is most common in relationships with hidden power dynamics. In the workplace, this type of betrayal also frequently occurs between bosses and employees, or between peers when one is outperforming the other. Imagine you are a young employee given a major project. You succeed and catch the attention of upper management. But your direct supervisor, who previously supported you, begins to change. They no longer help you as before. They block you from meeting higher-ups and even take credit for your work to maintain their position of power. They did not betray you because you did something wrong. They betrayed you because you made them feel like they were no longer the center. They did not betray you out of hatred, but because your power threatened theirs. Jung explained that power struggles are not merely external actions, but the result of an unintegrated ego that constantly needs to feel dominant to exist. In Ion, he wrote, "The ego must realize that it is, and always was, only a guest in the house of the self." In other words, the ego is not the master, it is only a guest. But when the ego forgets this, it will do anything to maintain control, even if it means betraying those closest to it. The pain of power struggle betrayal lies in the fact that it often comes from those who once lifted you, who once guided and showed you the way. They were once the ones you trusted, the ones who lit the path for you. But then your light became a threat to theirs, and they were forced to choose, integrate or eliminate. Not everyone chooses to rise with you. Some choose to pull you back down to restore the balance of power. So, what should we do when facing this kind of betrayal? Jung suggested a very clear path: absolute honesty with yourself and no guilt for growing. In Modern Man in Search of a Soul, he said, "The shoe that fits one person pinches another. There is no recipe for living that suits all cases. There is no universal formula for life. Your development, your freedom, and your happiness are not betrayals of anyone. If someone feels threatened by that, it is a story they need to heal within themselves. Most importantly, you need to recognize those who truly love you will not need you to shrink so they can feel bigger. They will expand themselves to walk further alongside you. Those who choose to betray you when you grow never truly wanted you to grow. They only wanted you to stay within the limits of their control." Power struggle betrayal is an unyielding reminder. When you become stronger, not everyone will be happy. But that does not mean you should shrink back. On the contrary, it is the time when you must hold firm to your true self and not revert to old roles just because someone refuses to accept who you have become. As Jung once wrote, clear and straightforward, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." Number 5. Projection of the shadow. Power struggle betrayals leave scars because they stem from the collapse of what seemed like a solid relationship, where you believed both were growing together, only to realize that only one of you could handle the other's growth. However, there is an even more complex and harder to detect form of betrayal, when others begin to project onto you the very things they are desperately trying to avoid within themselves. They turn you into a mirror reflecting the darkest aspects of their nature, and then despise you for it. This is the phenomenon known as projection of the shadow, one of the most common and dangerous defense mechanisms that Carl Gustav Jung profoundly analyzed. Jung defined projection as the process by which we assign parts of ourselves that we refuse to confront onto others. Negative qualities such as jealousy, selfishness, deceit, ambition, and envy, all the things that make us feel ashamed or uncomfortable, are pushed outside and projected onto someone else. In The Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious, Jung wrote, "Projection is one of the commonest psychic phenomena. Everything unconscious in ourselves we discover in our neighbor, and we treat him accordingly. This means that everything unconscious within us, we tend to see in others and act towards them as if it is their fault, not ours. This is fertile ground for betrayal to flourish. When someone cannot admit their envy, they begin to see you through a distorted lens. You are the envious one. When they tend to lie or manipulate, they begin to doubt your honesty. You are scheming, you are not trustworthy. The irony is, the more authentic and sincere you are, the more you become a target for projection. Your light makes their darkness visible, the part of themselves they are not ready to face. In friendships and romantic relationships, projection unfolds dramatically. Someone with a habit of being unfaithful may constantly check their partner's phone, question every small action, and live in a state of anxiety. This does not come from intuition, but from the reflection of the part of themselves they are trying to deny. Someone who often gossips behind others' backs may soon start accusing you of being the one who spreads rumors, even if you never have. This way, they temporarily escape their guilt by playing the victim instead of the villain. The danger of projection is that it creates a distorted worldview where the other person feels justified in betraying you. They feel they are punishing you for the very sins they are hiding. And the cruelest part is, these acts of betrayal are often wrapped in moral reasoning. They do not just turn their back on you, they convince themselves that it was the right thing to do. A startup entrepreneur in the creative industry once shared that his business partner, the one who had been with him from the very beginning, suddenly withdrew his investment, secretly transferred data, and launched a brand that was almost a replica of their model. When confronted, the partner simply said, "I can't trust you anymore. You've become too ambitious. You've lost the original values." But it was clear that he was the one who betrayed. What allows someone to confidently call their act of hurting another a moral decision? It can only be a projection. He projected his selfishness onto his partner and used that as justification to turn away. Jung believed that the only solution to break the cycle of projection is to have the courage to face one's own shadow. In Ion, he emphasized, to confront a person with their shadow is to show them their light. Only when you dare to look at the darkest parts within you can you stop fighting those same shadows in others. At the same time, you can easily recognize when someone is projecting onto you so that you no longer feel guilty for being wrongly accused. If you have ever been betrayed in this way, if someone has pinned things on you that you did not do, if you found yourself becoming the bad guy in someone else's story and you could not understand why, remember, it is not your fault. You are merely the mirror, and not everyone is brave enough to look into the mirror when it reflects the parts of themselves they hate the most. Keep your integrity, but do not be naive. Know who you are because, as Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Ion. When you understand the mechanism of projection, you will no longer confuse imposed guilt with your truth. You will walk away from betrayal not with bitterness, but with wisdom and strong self-respect. And sometimes, that is the beginning of a freer, lighter life, when you no longer have to carry the shadows of others on your shoulders. Number 6. Narcissistic betrayal. When someone betrays you by projecting their shadow onto you, it reflects a fear of facing their inner self. But there is an even more ruthless form of betrayal, not born from unconscious pain, but from a cold, calculated, and deliberate will. It is the kind of betrayal that comes from those with narcissistic tendencies, people who do not see you as a person, but merely as a tool in their journey. And when you no longer serve a purpose, they leave you behind like a broken object, with no regret, no concern, and no looking back. Carl Jung did not use the term narcissism merely as a psychological diagnosis. He saw it as an immature psychological state where the ego occupies the entire mental space and does not allow any connection with the external world unless it serves the self. In Psychological Types, he wrote, "The narcissistically inclined person is unable to relate to others as equals. They are used either as mirrors or as tools. This is the essence of narcissistic betrayal. You are not seen as a person with your own emotions and value. You only exist within the boundaries of the benefits they can extract." Imagine you have a friend who always shows up when they need something. Advice, support, connections, money, or even reputation. You help them wholeheartedly, believing there is genuine bonding between you. But then, when you need them during a crisis, a moment of loneliness, they are nowhere to be found. They do not show up. They do not ask. They do not care. And worse, when you no longer bring them any specific value, they cut ties in a cold, calculated manner, sometimes even turning against you to protect their image. This is not a momentary emotional reaction. This is a way of living, and you are just replaced like a disposable item. Or consider a romantic relationship where you were with someone who made you feel special. They praised you endlessly, pursued you actively, and made you feel adored. But over time you realize every kind word came with a purpose. They needed you to boost their career. They wanted you as a decoration for their perfect image. Or simply, you were a place for them to unload their emotions. When you began to ask for mutual support, when you showed your own emotional needs, they grew distant, cold, and indifferent. At some point, you come to the painful realization that you were never truly loved. You were consumed as a source of energy, and when depleted, you were discarded. Jung once warned in The Development of Personality, "A man who has not passed through the inferno of his passions has never overcome them." Narcissistic people have never walked through the fire of real emotions. They live through rationality that serves their ego, and they build relationships not through empathy, but through strategy. They seem deep, kind, and sensitive, but only when it serves the image they want to construct. Beneath the surface lies an empty psyche, incapable of truly connecting with others on a soulful level. This form of betrayal is particularly painful because it makes you doubt your value. When a narcissist turns away, they do not just withdraw their presence. They manipulate the narrative to make you believe that you are the one at fault. They will say, "I did everything for you, but you did not appreciate it." They flip the emotional script, turning themselves into the victim while they are the ones who left when there was nothing more to gain. The cruel part is, they know exactly what they are doing, and they do not think it is wrong. Because in the world of a narcissist, morality is a flexible concept, and you only matter as long as you bring them benefit. How can you identify such people early on? Jung suggested that you must listen to your intuition, because narcissists are masters of creating a perfect facade. If someone always makes you feel like you have to prove your worth, if they only appear when they need something, and if you feel drained after each interaction, those are signs. In Modern Man in Search of a Soul, Jung wrote, "Trust that which gives you meaning and not what gives you comfort. Believe in what brings you true meaning, not fleeting comfort." Narcissists will always make you feel comfortable, but in the end, you are left with nothing but emptiness. Narcissistic betrayal is a direct blow to your trust, but it is also a precious opportunity to learn to distinguish between genuine love and hidden agendas. When you move past the disappointment, you will understand that not being appreciated by someone says nothing about your true value. It only speaks to the limitations of their capacity to love. And as Carl Jung powerfully stated in Memories, Dreams, Reflections, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. A narcissist may betray you, but do not let them make you forget who you are. Betrayal is not the end. It is a mirror, not just to see the true nature of others, but also to understand how much you have grown. Every crack in trust is a ray of light for consciousness. Do not waste it on bitterness. Use it as a signal to adjust your path, purify your relationships, and strengthen your true self. Some people only love you when you remain small, easy to control, and dependent on them. When you begin to grow stronger, become more independent, and live more authentically, you find yourself out of place. Their departure is not a loss, it is liberation. Carl Jung once said, "What you resist persists. What you accept transforms." When you stop resisting the reality that some people will leave you, you begin to transform. You do not just overcome betrayal, you overcome yourself. Observe deeply, listen to the inner voice, and never compromise with anything that forces you to shrink just to be accepted. You were not born to fit into narrow expectations. You were born to individuate, to live fully and truthfully with your deepest self. The right people for you will never ask you to pretend. Those who belong on your journey will not betray the light you carry. So if you have ever been betrayed, do not close your heart. Open your mind. It is not the end of humanity. It is the beginning of a deeper, wiser, and stronger version of yourself. And on that journey, always remember, betrayal cannot destroy you if you know how to turn it into a lesson for awakening.